folks. I've got another Star Wars book for you. This one's called Alphabet Squadron. As you might imagine, it's about a squadron of fighters. It's actually a mishmash of several different squadrons, hence the alphabet. It's a derisive term by the peers of the other squadrons. This book, Alphabet Squadron, happens soon after the Return of the Jedi movie, so the Emperor has just died, the second Death Star has blown up, and the Empire is now losing. The Rebel Alliance has renamed themselves the New Republic, and as a result they're getting more governmental and less playing by the hip, which is some people like and some people don't like. Our protagonist, her name is Quell. She is someone who recently left the Empire and is joining the New Republic, and her recruiters are still skeptical of her, but she used to be in what's called the Shadow Wing, which was her squadron back when she was still in the Empire, and they were a particularly badass squadron, and now she's supposed to be doing the intel to track them down and sort of neutralize them or whatever. You just keep track of them so things go, so that they can stop them because they're still doing damage, or so they think. They're not sure. Anyway, so she is under the supervision of a guy named Cairn, and he is still skeptical of her, as he should be. The loyalties of these new recruits are in question. The sooner you join the rebellion, the higher status you have. So someone who joined the rebellion, who left the Empire and joined the rebellion before the destruction of Alderaan, has a much higher standing, or seems much more trustworthy than, say, someone who joined after the second Death Star, after the Emperor died, and the Empire is losing. That's the case for Quell. So she's very highly suspicious, but she's also a very highly trained pilot. She was really an excellent TIE fighter pilot and starfighter pilot. I guess starfighter is a general term for all fighter pilots, fighter jets, if you will. So an X-wing, a TIE fighter, a U-wing, a Y-wing, they're all called starfighters. An A-wing, you see A-wings more in the Clone Wars. They're very simple looking things. They look like little cars with wings. Anyway, I'm going to show you I'm just going to read you a couple quotes, if I can find it. There it is. Here's one quote. So she's hanging out with one of the other rebels who's been around much longer, and they're having a short little chat. It's between, so she starts out with, "You defected before Alderaan, didn't you?" "Sure, why do you ask?" And then she starts thinking to herself, Alderaan had been the true start of the conflict. The Empire had attempted to avert a civil war with a demonstration of might, destroying a terrorist government masquerading as a peaceful ally. In snuffing out billions of lives, in deploying the first Death Star planet killer, the Emperor had attempted to save trillions. "Did you ever stop to think it might have been the rebellion's fault? That things had gone differently?" And then the other guy interrupts, "Pretty sure most people blame the Empire." Of course, that's humiliating for her, and she realizes she has to keep her mouth shut because she's not in the Empire anymore. There's another quote where later on, even though they don't trust her, they still put her in charge of a squadron because she knows so much more about the Shadow Wing, which was her Special Forces squadron back when she was still in the Empire, and they're still out there causing trouble. So now that she's defected, they've got her in charge of sort of tracking them down and trying to fight them. So, but some of the other people in her squadron they're damaged goods. So these are people who they've lost their own squadron. They're the sole survivor from battles, and they're messed up. They're messed in the head, and so she's got a ragtag collection of fighters that starfighter pilots that she has to deal with. But her supervisor, Cairn, and his droid, an interesting droid, he's an ITO droid, and the ITO droid used to be an Imperial droid that would interrogate and torture people. I think you saw one of those floating globes in the original Star Wars movie when Darth Vader visits Princess Leia in her cell when she's still in captivity. I think that's one of those. So this ITO droid has been reprogrammed to be a medical droid, and he's actually very insightful because he thinks he's a good guy because he's supposed to take care of everybody as a medical droid programming, but everyone still sees him as a torture torture device. And so when he floats down the hallway, everyone kind of looks at him like real suspicious, and he gets a little offended by it. And he thinks he's taking care of his patients. Anyway, so her supervisor and the ITO droid are talking. The ITO droid speaks first. They've both suffered a great deal in recent days, talking about some of the pilots. Karen let out a bark of a laugh. At another time he might have held it in, but he could express himself freely in front of ITO. They were dehydrated, he said. Not exactly what I'd call suffering. They saw their comrades die. Neither currently has a social support system in place at all. Both feel responsible for what occurred. You said they'd suffered, Karen snapped. You know what suffering is. I know what suffering is. And the ITO says, their pain does not diminish yours. So, no, not an ordinary droid. I love the different personalities of droids. So anyway, this is a really interesting, if you like pilots, there's a lot of insight into pilots, how they view the world, or how they view the galaxy, how they view their worlds. So, Quell is really familiar with TIE fighters, which have certain strengths and weaknesses, and now she's dealing with all the starfighters that the Rebel Alliance / New Republic have, which of course includes X-Wings and Y-Wings and A-Wings and B-Wings and U-Wings and all these different things, and they all fly really differently, and you get to hear sort of her insights into the way the ones fly. Like, I think it's a B-Wing. I think that's one of the ones that's really asymmetrical and lopsided and stuff, and she talks about what it's like to fly one of those, because you're kind of like, your center of gravity is all off, and it's very strange, and she likes, she philosophizes about TIE fighters versus the X-Wings, and the TIE fighters were really fast, but they didn't have shields, and the X-Wings are not quite as fast, but they had shields, and they had more firepower, and all that kind of stuff. If you care about that sort of thing, it's neat. Even though it's got a lot of spaceships and blowing things up, it really looks deep into people's personalities and how they deal with stuff. There's like a New Republic ship and its squadrons are being pursued nonstop by an Imperial destroyer and its squadrons. And not unlike the first season of Battlestar Galactica, they both do short jumps and then have another battle, and then the Republic ship has to, takes them hours to calculate a new jump. They finally do it and they run, and whoop, the Empire catches right up with them and they have another battle. And it becomes this war of attrition, and the Republic people are like, oh, this is exhausting, we're going to eventually wear out. But then somebody's like, well, the Empire, they're not, the destroyer and their squadrons aren't sleeping either, so it's kind of an even battle, and they're just trying to deal with that. So it's cool that way, but there's a lot of characters to keep track of. But you can do it! I know, I believe in you! So, Star Wars Alphabet Squadron, if you can't do, review.